All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Ken, and welcome, Niko, who is our special guest today for the Above the Physical podcast. And before Niko starts telling us whatever he has to share with us today, I'm going to introduce you a little bit very shortly, and then you can correct me and also add on what I'm saying. So first of all, Niko is originally Greek, and his name, let's see if I can pronounce it correctly, okay? It's Niko Kapoutsos.
Perfect. Niko the Medium is fine.
Niko the Medium is much easier, but it's nice.
Exactly.
Kapoutsos, it's beautiful, so I wanted to try to pronounce it.
Perfect. Wonderful. Great.
Yeah, and he is a trance medium, he is an author, and he's a speaker. That's how actually I found out about him and I connected with him. I watched a beautiful interview, and he explores in a very unique way the aspects of consciousness, identity, the concept of identity that I loved, and also the higher self, and also the very deep nature of human experience, which I am fascinated by. And so, with this, he has many gifts. Can I call them gifts? I think it's a beautiful word to use. It's about you are very much in contact with all the invisible, yeah, all that is above the physical, and you can tell us whatever you would like. So of course we said that I was very curious that you would expand on the identity concept, but really it's up to you. You are very welcome, and then we are going to interrupt you. It's very spontaneous. We are going to laugh a lot, I think, today, have a lot of
Wonderful.
fun. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And yeah, this is it. So this is how we do it, very spontaneously. So you're
Wonderful.
very welcome. First of all, thank you for accepting our invitation. I am very grateful and happy.
Thank you for the invite, Sabrina and Ken. It really is my pleasure, my honor to be here. I would not reference them as gifts because then if we say that, then not everybody believes they have the ability. We're
Hmm.
all spirit. We're all essence. So we all possess the same ability to connect with essence. We all share the same pool of wisdom, of intellect as essence. So that's all it is tapping into that. Many years ago, I also experienced something like a near-death experience or out-of-body experience, however you want to
Hmm.
reference it. And I came out of that and nobody believed me, which is fine. But then I had a question that lingered with me for years. What if consciousness is not something we have, but what we are?
Yeah.
And that's how my journey began. It didn't begin with mediumship. It began with questions about consciousness, identity, excuse me, and why human beings experience themselves the way they do.
Yeah.
And then over time, mediumship became less interesting as a phenomenon and more interesting as a window into consciousness itself. Right? So then that's where, for me, it kept unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And then I was just breaking it down. And of course, I am a trance medium. And when I'm in that beautiful trance state, a lot of remembrance, I am connected with my higher self. It's just, I'm tapping into that reservoir of wisdom.
Okay, for
And it
those who
be
don't really know, Niko, what is the difference between being a medium and a trance medium?
trans mediumship is not primarily about communicating with spirit.
Hmm.
That's what people really believe it is. Proof of life after death. I believe mediumship is about understanding consciousness. You see, communication becomes less interesting than consciousness. It's who we are. We're expanded. Okay, so basically, consciousness is that death state. We're all more present in the death state than we are the alive, the living state.
Yeah.
So consciousness is that. So nobody ever dies, right? Consciousness exists. Yes, is always interconnected. So mediumship is tapping into that source of consciousness, right? Trance, people believe it's losing control because trance is such a powerful modality. nobody requires an intermediary. So when the churches wanted to come into control, into existence, they banned all of the trance mediums. Trance is awareness moving forward while identity relaxes, right? Trance isn't about leaving the body, it's about no longer gripping to it. So this is where you really are an expression of essence. So it's your higher self, it's your spirit team, whoever is going to collaborate in that state of consciousness. And the same way we speak through our breath is the same way they speak through the same breath, right?
It's
We
like a
when the
bridge state.
right, yeah, the breath is the interface, exactly, because your body already possesses energy, but the body was not born with breath. There was liquid in the lungs. Then the breath
Wow.
arrives. So I've asked, my parents, priests, teachers, as I was a little boy, where'd the breath come from? And you would get these incredible answers. The doctor would spank them on the backside and they'd breathe. I'm like, that makes no sense. Or the lungs created breath. I'm like, wait a minute, the lungs, it's not possible. So I even knew that before I was even taught about the liquid in the lungs. I just knew it. It's something that I was resonated with. So
So since
the
you were
body's
born, you knew it? You were questioning these kind of questions.
when I was a little boy. Well, when I was 6 or 7 years old, I had a little visitation of actually those spirit guides that are now assisting me with trance. They came in through my window. I saw visions. They were gliding. I thought it was great as a little boy, but then I could sense they were speaking to me, but their mouth wasn't moving, and I got nervous. I called for my mother, and she couldn't see them. I still saw them. I'm like, they're right there. You don't see them. So ever since then, I could sense their energy with me, which is great. I mean, I used to try to outrun it. I was afraid of it. Then I kind of accepted it as part of my life. It became like a little indicator of safety. Don't go there, all that beautiful
Wow.
experiences. But I just knew that what I was being taught was not complete. So then I kept focusing on the breath. Okay, if that's our essence or higher self or spirit, whatever you want to refer to it as, if that's our essence anchoring to the human form through the interface of the breath, then we always are the essence. We don't stop being it. And then all my church religious beliefs, I would question them like, wait, that makes no sense. If I'm the human being, but my breath is my essence, why do I have to die to go to heaven and be my essence again? What is the breath? So I was like, the one that the priest never liked to speak to because I would question everything.
I am curious now to know your answer. What did you get as an answer? Where does the breath come from? Because I'm a
Uh,
breathwork coach. So
Yeah, okay. So again, notice this that everybody who spoke about consciousness, philosophers, seekers throughout humanity, nobody has the right answer, the same answer.
the same.
They all tap something different, but nobody has the same singular answer. It's a mystery, right? And
And then there
again,
is the Bible
we're
mentioning that at one point God was breathing in the shape of
right.
Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's where the breath came from, which is that's actually probably the closest interpretation because even your essence comes from the creator.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the whole architecture of the essence that I've remembered. And for me, I wanted to understand when I understood that the breath is my essence, and that's how it's continuously anchored, and that's how it's experiencing the human journey. I'm like, well, how come my identity was formed? This is who I am, Niko, who you see, because this is how mostly all of humanity defines themselves by their identity and forgets their even essence. And this is what that whole awakening process that's going on. People are remembering their essence, right? So the identity is not a mistake or the enemy or something to transcend. Identity is the mechanism through which the human experience becomes possible for your higher self, right? The higher self created the identity.
Okay. Do you
Okay.
think that it could also be called conscious mind? Is it about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind or not? Not at
See,
all.
it's interesting because I used to teach that in one of my beginner courses that you have the conscious mind, the left side, the intuitive mind, the right side. The conscious mind is 15%. The intuitive mind is 85%. This is where you connect the spirit. Again, this all applies to the body, to the mind, but ultimately it's still the identity.
Yes.
Because think about this now. If we are that loving essence, right? When we all started this journey as an infant, all we were was love. So that was your essence expressing unconditional love through the human form. All of us, every single human alive started the same way. So my understanding is that's where the foundation of love was set for the incarnation, right? Then your identity begins to be crafted, to condition, to form. But notice how it conditions, how it's shaped by all the relationships you've engaged with,
Yeah.
right? No relationships are born in this reality. Everybody's an essence or soul. That's all those soul contracts they reference. So all these contracts are created prior to the incarnation. And then they turn out to be your parents, your siblings, your friends, your loves, whatever role they agree to play. Because of them, certain moments and experiences occur that we start feeling a variety of emotions, pain, heartache, loss, betrayal, right? Why do we have to learn this? Because that's how your higher self, your essence, experiences other shades of love. Because without love, there'd be no pain. So that's what the real incarnation is about, right? For
Totally
me, the
agree.
higher self is not another person somewhere else. For me, the higher self is the larger aspect of consciousness participating through this life.
It's
So
the
we call it the
consciousness, it's the
conscious
consciousness
mind.
that can separate from the body and expand completely at its full potential. Yeah.
That's where it always is. That's where we are as essence in the consciousness field, right? For the incarnation to originate consciousness, where we are in awareness, it's projected and structured through the human form to create this life.
Yeah.
So when we die, it just goes back to where it was, and that's always around us. It's not a different realm, a different reality. It's right here. It's all the space that you can't see anything in. That's where we are. And that's expanded across the whole planet. And that's where we all overlap, cross conscious overlap. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
right? When people speak about awakening, most people think awakening means becoming something different, right? My experience, awakening changes our relationship to what we already are.
To
So this is what's
remember,
happening,
awakening is
right?
to remember who we really are, truly are.
Exactly, exactly. Most people, they're not breaking down, they're reorganizing. You see, and this is what people don't understand. The way we perceive reality determines the reality we experience. So what if awareness is stable while attention moves? Right? That changes everything. Because if we know that awareness or consciousness is stable, it doesn't move at all,
Mm.
your essence is experiencing it from one viewpoint that doesn't keep moving. Your identity, which is conditioned, your mind, your perception is constantly moving. Your
Yeah.
attention is moving repeatedly. And that's when people say, "Oh, I don't have the ability, or I can't connect." It's because your mind is constantly moving and interfering with what's already present. When you don't try to do anything, you notice what's already appearing. It's always there,
Yeah,
right?
it makes total sense. I keep
Yeah.
asking very simple questions and then I leave Ken also free to ask. But because I went through this training to become a hypnotherapist, during the training there was this somehow very interesting, but to me very limiting definition of the identity. Yeah, and only identifying it in the mind. There was a very clear distinction, and it was only applying to the mind, conscious mind, subconscious mind. But because of the experience that I have with the breathing, I know that for me, the subconscious is in the body, it's not in the mind. it's not really here. It's like it's something that allows us automatically to be alive and to experience life. So when I heard you first speaking about the identity, somehow for me, the concept that you call identity, for me, it's like including also the the idea of the subconscious not only being placed here, located here, but all over our being.
Right. The subconscious is where everything gets stored, right? The identity is created by all the relationships we have, with those are the soul contracts, every
Okay.
experience born of these relationships, all of your education, all of your religious beliefs in every single moment of your life. You're walking
Okay.
around, you have conversations, everything your eyes notice is like a snapshot that's taken and stored in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the only resource your identity has. In that, you also have ego. In that, you have control. In that, you have the need for certainty. So the identity is conditioned for two reasons. The first, to remain rooted within the human experience. So you're not flighting and say, oh, I'm, a medium in the mountains and, with the flowing robes and not engage with humans. So you can actually have the human experience. The second is that the identity believes is protecting you. And it always needs certainty. Now, the subconscious, like you said, is all over because that's attached to the human nervous system. So if something is not certain, like when people enter mediumship or trance mediumship, evidential or trance mediumship, the identity doesn't know it. It's not part of the reference of the conditioning. It's not in the subconscious mind, so it starts reacting, trying to find something that matches to find certainty. And if it doesn't, it alerts the nervous system, and there's fear, and there's resistance, and there's breathing. You're hyperventilating because you're nervous. All of that happens because of the identity is trying to secure safety and certainty. So all that is part of the identity and the conditioning, and that's definitely needed so your higher self can experience the incarnation with all of those trigger points, right?
I
It
love
doesn't
it.
mean it's real. It's a
Yeah.
product of our environment. But when people define themselves as their identity and they're stuck in the past or they can't get over a loss or they're holding grudges with family members, I'm like, you're missing the entire picture. You're only viewing it from the lens of your identity and you think you created the identity. But that's not possible. I
Yeah.
said, you didn't select your parents. You were born into that family, or your siblings, or your friends. They all align somehow. Ask, what is that somehow? That's your essence. Think beyond, think outside the box, and see consciousness for what it is. Because every one of our essences is within consciousness, and they're all observing. That's why we interact. That's why you can also send somebody miles away and then they reach out to you. That's why you come across a stranger and there's an instant soul recognition. I know this person.
Yeah.
It's not the identity, it's not the human, it's impossible. Even right now, we
Yeah.
really truly believe that we're communicating human to human because it looks that way, it appears that way. We're communicating essence to essence expressed through the human form.
Yeah. I completely believe that. And this is also the reason why when I watch certain videos, I feel the urge to connect with that
Yeah,
person because I feel that I resonate a lot with that energy, not
right.
only with what the person is saying, but with an energy. I cannot explain it.
That's
It's,
your essence. You're
yeah,
sensing the energetic frequency of your essence. It's not that you saw me on a podcast or an interview.
yeah,
Your essence connected to my essence, that vibrational field, and that pull to create this is because we already agreed to it as
yeah,
essences. Nothing is intentional. You see, that's why there's an instant connection here. We all feel like, yeah, this is great. It feels comfortable. It feels familiar because it happened before we became these identities in this human form in this life. You see?
yeah,
So notice, even if the body is born into the world, flesh, bones, we're coming in as essence with all of these promises, with all of this map of everyone's journey, how we're all intersecting. Everything is already created and is applied once the breath is attached. Now the journey begins. That's why you're always guided back to your alignment. Whenever we feel we're falling off course somewhere, notice somebody always enters the picture and helps us with the alignment. You don't notice it at that moment, and years later you're like, "Wow, if he never showed up, what would have happened to me?" In hindsight,
Mm.
everything makes sense, but it doesn't make sense while it's happening. That's the beautiful part. We're not meant to know. See, and again, mediumship, evidential mediumship, people really try to connect to their loved ones because they really believe they're in a different reality.
Mm.
Like I said earlier, death may not be disappearance, it may be reorganization. What survives may not be what we assume survives, right? And if you start thinking about death, all in consciousness, like I said, then let's go one further. How about parallel lives,
Yeah.
right? The identity experiences one life. We only know this one life, but consciousness may be larger than one identity.
Mm.
So the question isn't whether another life exists somewhere else. The question is whether consciousness is larger than the identity asking the question, right?
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm.
It's fantastic. I have like 200,000 questions, but Ken, please do.
Only
I will forget
200,000,
all
I
of
was
Sabrina.
them,
just
but
saying
it's
that.
okay.
I was going to say the same thing, Ken. Only 200,000?
Yeah, that's like, wow, okay. Do you
My
have
brain
do you
is
have a
going. "Dum, dum, dum,
lifetime?
dum,
Do you have a
dum."
lifetime for this interview? Yeah. The wow.
Or this interview is
Um,
happening in parallel times and every question is being answered somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
right, right, exactly. Let's go back to your beginnings because a lot of people are curious, like, okay, how do you develop this consciousness, and what were some of the turning points for you as a child? You said this started happening as you were 6 years old, and there was some fear involved, and when you realize that these things are happening to you and you express it to the world, there's some bullying or something
Oh,
that can
yeah.
happen or people. So how did you deal with that and how did you get over that to decide that this is the path you wanted to take to help other people reach this higher consciousness?
With a lot of resistance. I was
No
very
doubt.
much,
No
yeah.
doubt.
See, the human purpose is what identity is doing. So this is where I was constantly focused on my identity, what I thought I was meant to do, what others expected me to do.
Mm.
I noticed early on in my life that what I was experiencing or the questions I was asking, the truth I was seeking, nobody else in my circle, family, or friends was able to understand it.
Mm.
Like some of my good friends, they felt less intelligent or less than. You see, so even
Ah.
though I have a college degree. When I create my books, my writing skill is different than my articulation skills, my speaking skills, because I learned early on if I spoke to those friends as an intellect, they felt uncomfortable. So I altered the way I speak to people regardless of the intellect level, because I never want anybody to feel that I was better than them or smarter than them. But when I write my books, that part comes out because there's nobody that I'm speaking to, and everybody could read it, and it's a different modality, a different expression. So I realized that it's best for me to keep quiet, keep it to myself. And the more I kept it to myself, the more I was able to notice recurring phenomenons. So I never really said anything to, after a while, I just stopped speaking to people. I did have a few moments in my life where in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I met this wonderful sage. Her name is Morgan. Fantastic, amazing, beautiful essence. And she helped me really understand what I was feeling. She was a Reiki healer. Back then, it was referred to as hands-on healing. Um, Evidential. I was seeing visuals. I was experiencing a lot of energy. Even the gentleman that she worked for at this beautiful resort, he offered me a trance channeling session, which in the beginning I was terrified, but then as soon as I sat, I could feel the energies and I felt my team. I'm very safe. That was very powerful. Again, I had no concept at all that I would be doing this. I just
What were
enjoyed
you
the
doing
period.
then? What were you doing in real life, like real human life?
Well, yeah, at that point, I had finished college and I was moving to California. Um, I had a finance degree. I had a real estate license, and the timing was off. When I was going into the financial field, it crashed. When I went into the real estate agency, it crashed. I mean, this is crazy. And
Little
my father,
signs.
yeah, my father and uncles had a construction business, so I kind of had stability in that. And then I opened up my own construction business, and I became a builder. So my whole trajectory shifted. And I kept putting this on the shelf. I kept putting it away. I didn't speak to anybody, but a lot of occurrences happened. I was divorced. I was going through divorce in 2015. Then I came to this Greek island where my grandfather was from. My father was born here. This is my grandfather's property. And 2 years in a row I came. And one of them is a cousin of mine passed in a car accident. He was 19. He actually came to me a year after he passed. I could hear him speaking like he was standing next to me. And then many years later, I came to Greece and I'm walking on my grandfather's property, and there's my cousin sitting on the cistern and speaking, having a conversation with me. So when my brain saw it as I'm either going crazy or that's a ghost, after a while, by me not trying to understand what it was, I started remembering. Because you're not taught this, I was remembering that's more of a projection, like a hologram. And he's not speaking because there's no body to speak from. And it was dubbing into my subconscious mind, but the subconscious is also very powerful because that's where spirit connection dubs. So the subconscious mind is throughout the body as you stated, but it's very much used by the identity and a great source for your higher self. So both are using the same subconscious mind. And notice the purposeful part is that we're not aware of it as the identity. As a human. We're not aware of the subconscious. That's why it's utilized by both, right? So when I realized that I knew what the human purpose was, what is the soul purpose? I realized that soul purpose is what consciousness is becoming through what identity is doing. Then I realized, okay, it's a deeper path for me. It's a deeper meaning. I must honor my essence before my identity. And then when I started doing that, everything was happening. More and more phenomenons, more signs, more repeated numbers. And then I was recognizing how powerful the intuition is. And then I realized that that's where my essence is directly guiding me, like a conversation almost. And I would trust it, even though there was uncertainty, I trusted it. And that's where I was remembering, and that's where I was receiving information. Write the trilogy, create courses. We're going to do trance demonstrations through you. And it just kept going. So I'm a vehicle. I just don't know which avenue they want me to take or which road to take. I just trust it. I even wrote a script. What happens prior to incarnation? I saw that entire movie over 4 dreams.
Wow.
Vivid. I even heard the dialogue. And then I wrote it like a month. I wrote the whole script.
So
And
every
as I'm
time you
writing,
woke up, you were writing down?
yeah, I had a tape recorder next to me and I would record it and then I'd leave it. And then the next day, and then I'd leave it. And I was writing notes and I was writing notes anywhere I was. I was getting glimpses of it, like fine tuning it. And then I wrote this beautiful, powerful script. And the whole time I'm writing it, I'm saying, all right, spirit team, higher self, whoever's listening, I don't know anybody in Hollywood. This is going to sit on the shelf until I die. So I'm going to just write it for you. And then I just kept receiving this intuitive feeling that it's not about me.
Yeah.
Now, from one book, it became a trilogy. Now it's 10 books, all about consciousness, written from the inside out. And it's like all these books are going to outlive me in this life. That's why I'm here. I'm here to remember and I'm here to pass it into humanity, and that's it. So even the script, it might be made while I'm alive, it might be made after I'm dead. It doesn't matter. It's not about me. I'm just a vessel. I'm just bringing it back into the humanity which they forgot. That's it.
Love it.
I think I elaborated on your answer, Ken. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, no. No, that was good. That was great. Um, you know, the average person that's here, we've been programmed up with everything that happens around us. So, is there, how would you say is a great step or a beginning for someone to go from that programming to reach into the conscious realm where everything is available?
Yeah,
How?
great. Again, the deepest realization for me wasn't that consciousness continues after death, as I stated. It was that consciousness may be far larger than we assume while we are alive. So if we start with that understanding and accept it, right? And if that's true, then perhaps the invitation is not to become someone else. It is to become more present, more honest, and more available to the life we are already living,
Right.
right? That takes away a lot of pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of fear.
Yeah. It deprograms the things that have been put in since
Yeah.
childhood.
Yeah, that's the conditioning. But it's funny, especially trance is a very, very powerful tool. Um, because trance, out of all the modalities, it really forces you to notice the interfering identity, the reflexes, the questioning, the doubt. That's all the conditioning. So when you notice that, that kind of interferes with the transmission, it distorts it. So the
Hmm.
more you continue to develop trance, it's not developing anything to do with spirit. That's an automatic. That just happens. It's already existing, already formulated to come through you, the vessel. The more we notice that the identity is interfering and not follow it, you notice you could never stop it. That conditioning is very powerful. It took years to create. It's not going to, combust overnight. But what happens is the more you notice the interference and don't follow it, the more you are also receiving the wisdom we possess as essence.
Mm.
That
Exactly.
that spirit intelligence kind of seeps into your brain like a new thought, and then it naturally overrides part of the conditioning that doesn't make any more sense to you, and you don't require it for this journey. So it kind of, and again, if the higher self, if your essence is the one that created the identity, the higher self has the power to bring in wisdom that it already possesses to override certain belief systems and fear and trigger points, which also assists for the identity not to be as so powerful with the controlling. So it's not you, you're never doing it alone. It's the recognizing what's happening, the recognition itself that you're like, I really am my essence. It's not just theory, I am my essence. And then you start recognizing further that the ability to sense or have emotions is because your essence, your spirit, your brain can't create emotion or sensations the same way it doesn't generate a thought. Everything appears within awareness. This is consciousness, right? But the identity is so controlling, it adds ownership. It claims ownership to the thought and to the speech because that's how it retains its control. So when you notice this is happening, what is it? What's it controlling? That's habit forming. You could let it go. All habits are made to be broken, right? Just soften it, and that's where the connection is. And that's when the remembrance is. It's all about remembrance more than anything. Because you already possess the wisdom as essence.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Of course, my
Perfect,
pleasure.
perfect answer.
My turn. My turn
You
now.
know, it's funny because through the other interview, a lot of people reached out to me and they just like, I really needed to speak to you. I connected with you. I resonated. As flattering as that is, I know it's not me. So even
Mhm.
your listeners now, something is going to register with them. Something's going to click. And they're going to say, I understand. I know this truth somehow. I don't know how. I could resonate with Niko. I don't know why. It's not me. I've touched that wisdom we all possess as essence, a shared wisdom. I've touched it and I'm articulating from that place. So even those who are listening, they're touching something within themselves, tapping into their own wisdom as essence. And that's what resonates with them. But the human lens views me and says, it must be Niko. That's the misinterpretation. We all have it. We're all essence.
Because this
Just
is what we see.
right,
It's just that
exactly.
you are the vessel that we see
Right,
with this
exactly.
name, Niko.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that's where this awakening process is occurring. Rather than viewing everybody as a human identity, view them as essence.
Mm.
And notice how that changes. If you view yourself as essence, and then you view everyone as essence, you already have the love. You feel the love. You feel calm. It's non-threatening. It's unity. It's purposeful. It's beautiful. And it's a great way to live your life. Begin by viewing yourself as essence, and then everybody, especially those who inflicted the most pain upon you,
Mm.
right? Because think about it. If that's a loving essence, imagine what that loving essence is experiencing by intentionally inflicting pain upon you, the human.
In
We don't
order
view
for
it that
you
way.
in order for you to remember something about yourself. This
Right.
is this is my personal actually story. I had to go through that to understand that who was hurting me was trying to make myself see who I really am. But I
Right.
was blind at the time. I could only see the action, I could only see what was happening and not beyond.
See now, again, our translation is through the same conditioned mind. Okay. And we're going to go to therapists and we're going to figure out what they're offering. And we're going to say it's about me, the identity and see myself, what have you. But if everything is intentional and all those relationships truly are soul contracts, essence to essence, it all comes from love.
Mhm.
So if we really take that to heart, even those moments that we perceived there was pain, what if that's another lens of love your essence is actually experiencing, right? Why are we starting this journey as an infant expressing unconditional love? Why is that becoming the foundation? Because everything comes from love. There is no pain without love. There is no betrayal without love. There is no loss without love. But notice how the identity only views the occurrence. What happened? And how did that affect me? That's the conditioning. Because you wouldn't have experienced that pain if you didn't go through some earlier experiences for your mind to be conditioned to react to that. And those are all remembrances of the past, and it just becomes a loop.
Yeah.
But none of it is actually real. None of it. None of it. Can you ask me what want most people to understand? I thought about this too. I'm going to go back for a second. That nothing may be fundamentally wrong with them. What I'm saying to Sabrina. Many
Yeah.
people are trying to become something else when perhaps the deeper invitation is to recognize what has always been present beneath the stories they carry about themselves. That's the
Mm.
passageway to your essence.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfectly. Yeah.
Do you believe that as we change our essence or as we tap into that, how does that affect the people around us? What does it have a direct effect to the
Oh
people around
yeah.
us?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what does
Because
that look
notice
like for you?
you're viewing all your relationships as your identity,
Mm.
right? Based on the history of those relationships. So you're viewing them as identity. You view yourself as identity. You react a certain way as your identity. You try to uphold a certain persona as the identity. You don't speak your truth. A lot of people that are starting to remember, they remain silent because they're afraid of the backlash, how they're going to be perceived and rejected by their own loved ones. And I experienced that firsthand. So there's always resistance. That's why I remain silent. But when you start viewing them as essence first and then yourself as essence first, you know that everything was intentional. That programming you spoke about earlier, everything's intentional, that they're not the identity you perceive they are, their essence. And then that opens up a whole other window, a whole other arena of split trajectories, parallel realities, parallel incarnations, same essences, different relationships, right? So right now we just met as strangers, but there's a kinship here, right? Maybe because we have more intimate relationships in other parallel lives. Maybe we're parent-child or siblings or spouses or enemies or allies. You don't know. So if we stay with one identity, you're limiting the reality, the truth. And that keeps you narrow-minded, and you continue to react as your identity based on the conditioning of the experiences, the history, and what you perceive you're supposed to react as, which is another loop of the identity. It doesn't mean anything. So when you start remembering your essence first, then accepting your essence first, then viewing yourself as essence, then you're able to view everyone as essence first and offer love. So they don't know how to react to you at that point. They think you're crazy because you're speaking about spirits and speaking to the dead, but then they feel your love and you become almost impenetrable. They can say whatever they want, and you just know it's their identity because that's their conditioning. It has nothing to do with you, and you just let it bounce off of you like some kind of a shield of armor. Nothing penetrates you. And in return, they feel their love. Seeds are being planted, and they're beginning to question, am I more than my identity? And perhaps that's part of that soul contract that you don't know about.
Right.
See, it's like it becomes like a big onion, and you keep peeling away the layers to see what's in the
And
core.
there are a
And
lot of
it's a beautiful
layers.
journey. I'm sorry?
Yeah, and there are so many layers. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible. And because of these layers, my next question is going to be about this, now we're speaking about consciousness and the experience of consciousness through the human life. But you mentioned a while ago that all that is invisible exists. And there are so many layers, so many dimensions. Yeah. And it's not about, I don't know even today if I can speak about spirituality. These dimensions are about levels of consciousness. How would you define them? Because even in the invisible realms, there are many realms and there are many layers or levels of it.
Right. Who said that?
I've watched a lot of
Right?
it. Who said that?
Right.
It's always the unique perception of people who access this kind of layers, this kind of dimensions.
Exactly. Now, why? Because again, even a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience, okay?
Yeah. It's more
What you
about the out-of-body
experience,
experience. Yeah.
right, what you're actually experiencing is your essence. You're experiencing consciousness, right? But as we are conditioned and all the limited teaching, which does not reflect what's happening in consciousness, we have a limited vocabulary to articulate. And what happens when people speak about levels, they automatically perceive and imagine hierarchy or better than or more evolved or spiritual ranking, right? I don't tend to think of consciousness as existing in levels in the way people often imagine, right? Because first, I know it's a limited vocabulary and a limited perception. That's one. But I also think that consciousness is present always, but our access to it, identification with it, and expression of it can vary. Right? So instead of levels of consciousness, I might refer to it as models of participation in consciousness or degrees of identification. So a person can be completely identified, right? I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. I am my story. Then beginning to observe, or I notice my thoughts, I notice my reactions, then recognizing awareness. I am not only what I experience, right? Then participating consciously. The human experience continues, but there is less attachment and less resistance. You see, so based on what they're evolving to, their vocabulary and articulation changes.
Yeah.
That's why I always ask, who said that? Because for me, I'm trying to understand where they are at their own development of remembrance and how they're articulating it.
Yeah, but this is what fascinates me, Niko, and this is why I am so blessed in having started with Ken these kind of conversations, because each one of us has got a unique perception of
Yeah, of
reality.
course.
Yeah. And the interpretation that we give of this reality is making other people become more aware of what they cannot
Yeah.
see yet. Yeah. And I don't even know it. I don't stop, and I don't want to stop myself in thinking, oh, but because he is defining this in this way, it means this. No, it's
You're right.
just his essence that perceive the reality in that way. And this is the way that they are somehow transmitting, sharing their
Of
experience
course.
with others.
I agree 100%. Within my framework that I'm remembering and I'm recognizing is that the shift isn't gaining consciousness, right? The shift is changing our relationship to consciousness.
Hmm.
See, awareness is already present. So the question becomes, how identified are we with the structures moving through awareness?
Yeah.
That's how I see it, and especially in spirituality and in spiritual systems, there's a trap because the spiritual systems create higher consciousness, lower consciousness, advanced souls, beginner souls, right? But that often creates spiritual identity,
Mm.
human identity, spiritual identity, right? So instead, you could say I mean, instead
Yeah.
they could actually say or think or perceive that the movement isn't from lower to higher. The movement is often from unconscious participation to conscious participation.
Mm.
You see?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Can you see me?
Even, and that goes the same with enlightenment, right?
Right.
People people imagine enlightenment as becoming something extraordinary. Again, their perception of it, right? But my experience suggests it may be more about reducing misidentification than acquiring something new. Look, this is for all those who are
Yeah.
they're questioning what I'm saying. I'm going to make a simple analogy, okay? The sky doesn't become more sky. The clouds simply move. So, in a similar way, awareness may not be evolving in the way we think. What changes is our relationship to the structures appearing within it.
Yeah.
Are there levels of consciousness? Rather than levels of consciousness, I see different degrees of identification.
Yeah.
The
Degrees of
less tightly,
identification.
yeah, the less tightly consciousness is identified with a single story, the more available reality becomes.
Yeah, because it's about experiencing that reality. It's not about defining it, it's more about experiencing it.
Exactly right. And when you're experiencing it, that's where I believe, and we're not labeling it, just experiencing it, being the observer, I believe that's where the remembrance of awareness, identity, the higher self, awakening, all appears clearer without creating hierarchy, spiritual superiority, or ranking systems. It keeps you freer and more open to remember, my belief.
Mm. Yeah. And do you have some urgent question, Ken? Because I have another one.
Whole thing.
Now
Yeah.
she has 199,997
To go, yeah. I
to
mean,
go.
I wanted to give her space to go. The
Come on, Ken, go on.
I'm just having fun.
Me too.
The the okay, what am I saying? Um, where as we're listening to this, it makes a lot of sense to me. Where does a person begin to experience this? As someone listening to this video who has no idea of kind of what we're talking about, but it's intriguing them. where do they go? What do they do? What would be some simple steps somebody could make to raise this ability to tap into consciousness?
Well, how about you? How did you do it?
How did I do? It's been a long, good question. It's been thanks for turning that
Let
around.
them hear Ken's story, then I'll say my story.
Um, it's been a journey,
Yeah,
and it started from listening and accumulating accumulating that what was programmed in, from parents, from
right,
school, from everything. But somewhere along the way, I realized there was a lot more. There was a
right,
lot more out there. And if I stuck with the stories that were in my head and what people wanted me to believe, then I was missing out on something so much bigger. So it was just a continuous search
yeah,
for
yeah,
um, finding the answer or the progress to that. But I don't think we ever stop.
right,
It's like we're always redeveloping and
right.
reconnecting and then letting go of some of those old programmings, which could mean anything from forgiveness for somebody who did something to us. As you reach into that new level of understanding consciousness, it's a lot easier to let go of some of those animosities that you may have had to someone that hurt you or something like that. So
Yeah,
for me, it's been just a journey,
yeah,
just a journey, and every day is
yeah,
another lesson in that journey, as this communication is
yeah.
part of that lesson.
Absolutely right. That's fantastic. And notice you've been exploring that without a blueprint,
Yeah.
right? And that's where now, this day and age, people are starting to write or speak of doorways or possibilities or understanding to make life easier for others, right? And this is a very important question that you asked, because I know people often hear conversations about awareness or consciousness or the higher self or even awakening, and they think, oh, that sounds interesting, but where do I begin? Right?
Mm.
So you begin by noticing what is already happening. That's key. Not by trying to reach a special state, not by trying to become spiritual, and not by trying to transcend yourself, just by noticing, right? Look at them as doorways. First doorway, right? Just ask, what is aware of this moment? Not philosophically, right? Just right now. The thoughts are appearing, sensations are appearing, emotions are appearing, sounds are appearing. What is aware of them? You see? And what happens is that most people immediately begin thinking about the answer, thinking. And don't think, just pause and notice, right? Then another doorway. You have all these doorways. A second doorway, let's say, right? Notice that thoughts are happening. And then ask, am I creating every thought? Or am I becoming aware of thoughts as they arise? Now, that question alone can begin shifting a person's relationship to consciousness, right? And keep going down
Absolutely.
the doorways. The third doorway, notice your breathing, not controlling it, not changing it. Just notice, hey, breathing is already occurring. And then what else in my experience is already occurring without my management? And then you realize hearing, seeing, awareness itself. Most people think consciousness is hidden, but perhaps consciousness is the one thing that is never hidden. What is hidden is our attention, because that's what's constantly moving. And that's your identity is constantly moving it. So you don't focus on consciousness. Then it loses control, right?
Hmm.
Awareness is already present. I said this earlier. What moves is attention. And notice people spend years trying to find awareness. Meanwhile, awareness is what is noticing the search. Isn't that amazing?
Ab-
And then
Absolutely.
and then when they ask me how do they connect to the higher self, I tell them begin by becoming more intimate with your own experience. Like the higher self is not necessarily found by you leaving yourself. It may be discovered through a deeper relationship with what is already present. It's that simple. People that, and a lot of my students, a lot of other people I mentor or from the free circles I offer, they'll always text me and they'll tell me that they're struggling and they're trying too hard. And I tell them that's why you're trying. Just for 1 minute, don't change anything. Don't improve anything. Don't fix anything. Don't try at all. And just simply notice thoughts, sensations, sounds, emotions. They appear, you notice them. Then ask, what is aware of all of this? Not to get an answer, but just to begin experiencing the question. Isn't that your higher self?
Absolutely.
Right? The doorway to consciousness is so much closer than people think. I just gave them 3 doorways. But it's so much closer than people think. You don't have to create awareness. You only have to notice that it is already here. That's
Hmm.
it, you know? But
So
again,
simple.
it is very simple, but it's not as simple for your identity to get on board. Say, okay, let's notice. Because it's going to keep shifting and keep trying to control you and get you back because that's what it's conditioned to do. And somebody asked me, well, if the higher self creates the identity, why is it so difficult? Why can't I just notice it? Because how would the return be so profound? How would the remembrance have such meaning? How would you be able to help others by not living the difficulty that they're living? Everything has a purpose.
Yeah. I have some other 50,000. The more you speak, the more my brain is producing
We're going
questions.
to have a second episode,
Oh my God.
part two.
Maybe a series, you know?
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be fantastic.
No, but
That'd be fantastic.
two or three things where when you were saying now these last things, ideas, concepts, I was somehow, you know, I am a little bit hyperactive in my in my thinking. So I was listening, but I was going to, first of all, you were born with this kind of activation of awareness who was already there. Okay.
We
There
all
are,
have it. We
yeah,
all
we
have it.
all have it, but not everybody remembers it. And there are many who are born like you who remember already, but they don't see the exact same thing. They see, there are people who see ascended masters, yeah, people who speak with higher spirit. There are people who are speaking or channeling galactic federations or aliens, and they remote view different type of aliens, because it's not only about spirituality, angels, God, Christ, this kind of energy. There are so many different energies. And is this, in your opinion, is this because of our unique essence experiencing, picking from the vibration of our unique essence? Or is it because each one of us comes and has some tasks or missions and has to get in touch? And the more they remember, the more we remember, the more we get in touch with the source we come from. But the source is one. The source is supposed to be one for everybody.
Right. It is. The way I see it, it's not that I remembered earlier or I experienced something that everybody else didn't. I think we all experience it. We're just not noticing it throughout the journey, right? And then everybody has a specific purpose that their essence wishes to accomplish through this identity in this life. my specific purpose is to remember without trying to articulate through my limited human vocabulary. And a
Hmm.
lot of what I read and I hear other people speaking, it's just like that's how I would have articulated it from my human lens also. But the more I try not to articulate it, especially when I'm in trance, and people ask these kind of questions, and my team will offer guidance, insight from that perspective, which does not have the condition identity. Some of that lingers in my mind. Other times the remembrance comes in. Like I said, it's more of what we possess as wisdom and intellect as essence and try to articulate it from that space rather than translate it from my human conditioned mind. So a lot of even what I hear,
Mm.
yeah, I would have answered that way 10 years ago, but when I hear them answer specific ways, I know it's their identity translating it. I don't call them on it. I don't mock anybody. I just that's great because they're trying their best to bring forth what they experience through their translation. But sometimes that also confuses people,
Yeah.
right? I think there are two very different questions hidden inside the word aliens, right? One is, are there other forms of life in the universe? Another
Mhm.
question is, what is the nature of consciousness itself, right? Notice now, that's how we articulate. So the human lens in the translation would ask other forms of life. But given the size of the universe, it would seem unlikely that humanity is the only form of intelligent life,
Yeah.
right? That's great. Oh, this is great translation. This is the human perception, 100%. Based on the conditioning or the movies, the books we've read, now let's switch it,
This is based on
right?
the religions, mostly the
Everything,
philosophies.
education, religion, cinema, books, everything is perception from a limited lens, limited vocabulary through generations, right? My work has gradually shifted away from asking whether physical terrestrial beings exist and toward understanding the nature of consciousness even more. Because if consciousness is not limited to physical form, then intelligence may not be limited to physical form either. You see? So I think many people assume that if non-human intelligence exists, it must interact physically.
Hmm.
But my own perception is that communication, if it occurs, may be much closer to consciousness than spacecraft to spacecraft.
Mm.
See? I
Yeah.
even wrote about that in my third book, The Soul's Evidence, probably very much similar to that. My understanding of essence to essence communication. So people have real experiences. I'm not doubting that at all. What is often less clear, to me at least, is the interpretation of those experiences. So I think it's important to distinguish between having a profound experience and immediately assuming we understand what caused it.
Mm.
You know, one of the ideas I explored in the soul's evidence is that consciousness may be connected in ways that transcend physical distance. And again, if that's true, then the future of communication may have less to do with traveling through space and more to do with understanding the nature of consciousness itself. Right? So,
Teleportation.
yeah. So the question may not be whether we are alone in the universe. Perhaps a deeper question may be whether consciousness has ever been separate to begin with. Right? Do I think intelligence life exists? Quite possibly. Do I think the universe is populated by physical beings secretly controlling humanity? No. That has not been my experience or understanding. And again, what interests me far more is the possibility that consciousness itself is the bridge between all forms of intelligence.
Okay.
What do you think about Ken? Do you
Yeah.
agree, Ken? You're nodding your head. I think you
Yeah.
got that one, huh?
Yeah. I I do. I think it's something that we have no idea of how far that really goes. And and as we explore that, I think we'll find more of how far that reaches, whatever that is, without putting the past parameters of whatever we've learned in our lives and being open to see where that journey takes us.
Yep. And I also think that's the underlining of what's happening now. Throughout humanity, this expansive awakening or this expansive understanding of consciousness, and let's look into this. I think that's one of the main reasons why it's happening. The more we look inside, the more we connect to our essence, the more we realize that we are part of this expanded consciousness. I think that's going to open our understanding to what's already happening and occurring. That's
Right.
all that in communication, intelligence to intelligence. I think that's the future of humanity, but I think it's extremely difficult to truly grasp it if we're utilizing the conditioned mind to translate it. Again,
Yeah.
we're seeking outside rather than inside.
Right.
That's what we have to just, shift the lens a little bit. And I think it's all possible. That's the remembrance I was mentioning.
Exactly.
But then how do you explain the the fact that the same essence, we come from the same source, so the same type of essence that has no intentions really, then comes here on earth and expresses itself in such abominable way. I don't know if you can say this word in English. Correct me, please, if it doesn't exist. But there are some horrific things happening. Yeah, I know that souls agree to come and experience this kind of experience to evolve and to grow. Uh, but still, as a human, you feel powerless because you can only witness what is happening, and then you can't explain why a soul would choose both to come here to suffer so much or to inflict so much suffering in order to grow. I mean, yes, of course, it's duality, of course, but once you are in the game, once you are in this grid and you have to go through these experiences, how do you explain to people who just see war, who just see the bombs,
Yeah.
who just see abuse? So, how do you make these people
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
and see that it's so much more than that?
Yeah. This is actually quite a common question whenever I speak about consciousness or the higher self or interconnectedness or participation, because eventually somebody always asks, then how do you explain suffering? How do you explain war? How do you explain abuse? How do you explain horrific things happening to innocent people? And honestly, I think this is where many spiritual frameworks become problematic because they rush toward explanations, right? But the first thing I would say to these people asking the question is that not everything needs to be explained away. Some experiences deserve to be felt before they are interpreted, right? I don't believe consciousness is a justification for suffering. I don't believe tragedy becomes acceptable simply because we place it inside a spiritual framework,
Yeah, so how do
right?
you cope with that?
I believe that the higher self creates the possibility for participation,
Mm.
right? But that does not mean every event is desired, every action is approved, every outcome is preferred, right? That's what the human being and the identity is looking for. Human beings still possess interpretation, responsibility, agency, right? There is a difference between allowing the possibility of an experience, which the higher self created, and endorsing the experience itself that the identity is trying to do. See, the existence of courage requires the possibility of fear. The existence of compassion
Yeah.
requires the possibility of suffering. The existence of forgiveness requires a possibility of harm, right? That does not make the harm good. It simply means human experience contains contrast, right? And notice, most people want a reason. Why? But perhaps the deeper invitation is a response, right? When something horrific happens, I am less interested in asking, why did this happen? And I'm more interested in asking, how will we respond to it?
Yeah.
Because that is where our humanity becomes visible, right? I don't think any of us possess a complete answer to suffering. What I do know is that some of the most compassionate, courageous, and extraordinary expressions of humanity often emerge in response to the most difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
So the experience of suffering does not disprove consciousness, it reveals the depth of participation available within human life. I don't think the purpose of spirituality is to explain away pain. I think it's to help us remain present enough to meet pain without becoming it. If we do that, then that avoids victim blaming, spiritual bypassing, simplistic karma explanations. Everything happens for a reason cliches, right? And it stays aligned with the way you recognize that the goal is not to escape being human. The goal is to participate consciously within the human experience, even when that experience includes loss, uncertainty, and suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is one of the best explanations that could
Thank you.
possibly be shared. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
The fact is that there are anyway people watching only TV, and the only thing they see and they focus on is the separation, conflict, but
Yeah, of course. But the same exact people are still very much tethered to their identity.
yeah, yeah,
And of course, that's meant to happen. We're gonna
yes,
have to do a part two because I
yeah.
actually have a course coming up that I'm teaching.
Okay. Because otherwise I wouldn't stop. Yes. Oh my God. I have a timer actually. I haven't watched. It's been a long conversation. Oh my God.
I've I've
Okay.
loved it. I can
Yeah.
keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. You're coming back. Please.
It'd be my honor. It'd be my
Yeah.
honor. You
Our.
know, if there's, I'll end it
So
on this
where
note. If
can
there's
people find you before we close this? Because otherwise I forget it. Let's people know how they can contact you, connect with you, and I will put in the description also some links.
Very simple. They can just go to my website, NikoTheMedium.com. Niko themedium.com. And everything is there. Everything. They could just read it. Whatever resonates with them, that's it. I don't like to speak about that so much because then I feel like a cheap car salesman. So it's all
Yeah.
right there. Whatever they're drawn to. I even offer a free 30-minute consultation if they just want to talk. I'd be more than happy. I love meeting people and helping them any way I possibly can. And if it's one thing I've come to appreciate through consciousness, mediumship, trance, and all of the experiences I've had is this. We spend so much of our lives trying to become something. Like I said, more spiritual, more awakened, more evolved, more complete. And yet perhaps the deepest realization is that nothing fundamental was ever missing. Perhaps what we call awakening is not the acquisition of something new, but the recognition that has always been present beneath our fears, our stories, and our ideas about ourselves, right? The goal was never to stop being human. The goal was never to escape the human experience. The goal is to participate in it more consciously, more honestly, and more lovingly. And if consciousness is truly larger than we imagine, then again, perhaps the invitation is not to become someone else. Perhaps it is to become fully available to the life we are already living.
Mm.
That's what I would leave all of you listeners with. That's how
Thank
you
you.
honor yourselves.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you again, Niko. Thanks. It was wow. It was wow.
I'm glad.
It was wow.
It was wow for me too, Sabrina. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you have to go, please feel free to leave, because I have to remember everybody who is watching to please subscribe to my channel, and also share if you find these content interesting, and also engage in comments, because in this way you help YouTube understand what my channel is about, because it's about a lot of things, because Sabrina does a lot of things. So YouTube has to take time to understand it. But yeah, and then you also click on the little bell, as Ken always reminds me, because then you are updated with every content that I upload. But thank you again. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Niko, again.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Sabrina. It was a pleasure. My honor.